They say life changes when you achieve your goals, but that's not true. Life changes when your goals change you. Think about it. Imagine you're chasing a dream, spending years, energy, sleepless nights, and when you finally reach it, you realize that the real treasure isn't what you got, but who you became to get it. Because goals aren't about things, they're about you, about your growth, your discipline, your faith. And if you truly understand this truth, you'll never set goals the same way again. Stay with me. At the end of this video, I'll give you a practice that will help you see who you need to become for your dreams to become reality. You know what paradox I've noticed in life? People spend an enormous amount of time climbing to the top. And then when they finally stand there, they realize that the real joy wasn't in the summit itself, but in the climb, in the stages, the sweat, the falls, the small victories that shape them every day. That's where, on the road, strength, wisdom, and character are born. And that's exactly what my mentor meant when he once told me, Jim, don't set goals just to get things. Set goals to become someone. At 25, I was broken. Financially and morally, I had a family, but no money, no plan, no answer for how to escape the trap of routine. I thought that all I was missing was an opportunity, a bit of luck, a better market, the right circumstances. And one day my friend invited me to a seminar. I wasn't looking for seminars, I was looking for a miracle. But instead of a miracle, I heard a sentence that cut through my old way of thinking like a blade. If you want things to change, you have to change. If you want everything to get better, you have to get better yourself. I walked out of that room feeling like someone had turned me inside out. I realized that my whole life had been built on waiting for the world to change, for an opportunity to come, for someone to notice my potential. But opportunity doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who grow. And from that moment on, I started working not on the market, not on politics, not on circumstances, but on myself. The paradox of goal setting is that most people think, when I get that, I'll be happy. But in reality, it's the other way around. Only when you become a happy, mature, strong person do you start receiving. Because success isn't something you chase, it's something you attract. And you attract it not with your desire, but with your level. I've seen hundreds of people set goals and never achieve them. They wrote lists, made plans, dreamed, but nothing changed. And I've seen others set the same goals, but change themselves. And everything began to move for them. Because when you grow, your dreams start to catch up with you. Success, like a magnet, is drawn to a person who works on themselves, not just on their wishes. When I started to understand this, I found peace. I stopped running after results. I began to build the person capable of creating results. And with every new skill, with every shift in mindset, I was expanding the limits of what was possible. That's why I always say, don't set a goal to become a millionaire for the million. Become a millionaire for the person you'll have to become to achieve it. Because if you take all the money away from a true millionaire tomorrow, something far more valuable will remain. Their skills, discipline, vision, their self. And that's exactly what will make them rich again. So the question isn't what goals you set. The question is who you become while working on them. Because the real value of goals isn't in the finish line, it's in learning how to run. And if you keep running, you've already won. So today, we're not going to talk about how to achieve goals, but about how goals achieve you. We'll break down why the best thing you can do for your future isn't to wait for the right moment, but to start building the right person. And if you stay until the end of this video, I'll show you a simple practice that will help you see how far you've already come and how to become the person you need to be for everything you dream of to become possible. There's a simple truth that once turned me to face the future. Goals are teachers, not bosses. They don't yell at you. They teach you. They don't chase you. They shape you. When I first realized this, I stopped asking, where do I find an opportunity? And started asking, who do I need to become for the opportunity to find me? Feel the difference. It's like changing the direction of your sail. The wind is the same, but the course is already different. And here's the first turning point of our conversation. You don't adjust life, to fit your goals. You raise yourself to the level where those goals become your new normal. I remember myself when I was young. I had a notebook filled with long lists of desires, a car, a house, travel. I wrote them down every night like a spell. But in the morning I woke up as the same guy and afraid to make a call, too shy to ask, always postponing things until after the holidays. Lists didn't work until another question appeared. What's the one trait I can strengthen today so that tomorrow I'll have the courage to take a step? Not 10, not 20, 1. Because true growth doesn't come in bulk, it comes brick by brick. Character grows one action at a time. And here's a micro anchor for you right now. Think of a goal that scares you. What quality does it demand from you? Discipline, endurance, the ability to say no. That's your first step. But that's not all. My mentor once said, "Jim, if you want change, change your daily schedule." I smiled. Could it really be that simple? Turns out a yes. I couldn't make a leap in income without changing my learning rhythm. I couldn't become a better speaker without changing my preparation routine. I started setting small checkpoints throughout my day, not waiting for inspiration, creating it through discipline. Why does this work? Because goals love order. They don't come into chaos. They're like honored guests. They enter where the table is set, where your habits are already ready to welcome them. And yes, you can already feel that. Near the end, I'll give you a practice that will put your day on track. Hang in there. Here's another metaphor I like. Goals are a gym, not a prize. Most people run for the prize and get disappointed when they don't see it. I suggest something else. Become the athlete for whom the process itself is the victory. When you're training the muscle of character, every repetition hurts. But that pain is the currency you pay to buy a new version of yourself. Every refusal of the unnecessary, every early wake up, every honest conversation with yourself, those are your reps. And here's another micro anchor. When you feel resistance tomorrow, don't look for motivation. Look for the next repetition. It's small, but it's what teaches you to keep the pace. Now, about fear. Goals are always a bit bigger than your current self, and that's normal. I was scared too. My first big audience, dry throat, cold palms. My first business step, a knot in my stomach. But do you know what was on the other side of fear? A new definition of myself. Fear doesn't disappear before the step. It disappears during the step. It's action, even imperfect action, that rewrites your inner story. I'm the one who acts even when afraid. You can't think your way to courage. You walk your way there. So here's a little pause. Inhale, exhale. Ask yourself out loud, what's one step I'll take today, not tomorrow, to become the person capable of carrying this goal? There's a temptation to think goals are about speed. In reality, they're about direction. I've seen people rocket forward and crash into walls because they were racing the wrong way. And I've seen those who moved slowly but steadily, and their results caught up with them, like dawn catches up with the night. Where you look, that's where you grow. If your gaze is glued to the finish line, you'll miss the lessons of the road. If your gaze is on yourself, on how you're becoming sharper, more honest, more useful, the finish line will find you on its own. Goals aren't a destination point on a GPS. They're a system update mode every day. Let's take another important turn, your environment. When I started asking different questions, I realized I needed different conversations. Goals love the company of people who are also growing. Your environment is the thermostat that sets the temperature of your standards. If it's normal to complain around you, you'll cool down. If it's normal to take action, you'll warm up. And yes, I know sometimes you have to stand alone against the familiar world, but believe me, one genuine conversation with someone who believes in your potential can be worth 3 months of lonely doubt. Schedule those conversations. They're part of your goal too. And finally, in this block, about honesty. A goal without honesty with yourself becomes a burden. Ask yourself tonight, what do I do that makes me smaller? What do I do that makes me greater? Don't judge, just observe. Because, my friend, you can't manage what you don't notice. Notice, and you're already halfway there. And yes, we're not done yet. In the next part, I'll give you another perspective. How to turn yesterday's failures into fuel, why it didn't work out isn't a sentence but a signal light for course correction, and how one simple habit can accumulate your small steps into massive breakthroughs. Stay tuned. The best is yet to come. When I say that goals are teachers, here's what I mean. They know how to turn our failures into lessons. In my youth, I failed more than once. It seemed to me that every bad day was a sentence on my future. But then I learned to ask failure a question, not why is this happening to me, but what is this trying to show me? And I discovered every setback is a small compass needle adjusting the course just a bit. You just need the courage to look it in the eye. That's where a new kind of thinking is born. You're not falling, you're recalibrating. And now a quick attention reset. Recall your last failure and find one-line lesson in it. Write it down. It's more important than it seems, but that's not all. Once someone told me, Jim, your problem isn't your goals. Your problem is that you don't have a system strong enough to sustain them. And I realized results are a byproduct of consistency, not a heroic burst every 6 months, but quiet, honest actions every day. That's why I added a small evening meeting with myself. 5 minutes before sleep, I answered 3 questions. What did I do today that made me greater? What did I do that made me smaller? And what will be my first step tomorrow? My friend, you can't imagine how quickly your trajectory starts to straighten out when every day ends with a bit of truth. Goals love truth. They don't tolerate fog. Now, about self-image. Many people wait for new results to give them a new identity. It works the other way around. You first take on the role, and only then does the result confirm it. For a long time, I wore the suit of a modest guy with small expectations, and the world politely responded to me with small things. Until I changed my inner dress code, I began to act as if I already carried the value of a higher level. I prepared more carefully, listened more attentively, and kept promises down to the comma. And one day I noticed doors that were locked yesterday now opened with a light push. Why? Because the world recognizes those who sign under their own standards. There's another subtle point. Sometimes we confuse inspiration with progress. Inspiration is a spark. Progress is an ember. You need the spark, but the ember gives warmth. How do you build an ember? Through repetition, when you don't feel like it, but still do it. When there are no results, but you stay consistent. When no one applauds, but you keep laying brick upon brick. I always repeat one phrase to myself. Make it small, not write a book. Write 1 paragraph, not become a leader. Have one honest conversation. Not fix your life. Tidy up 1 desk. Small is the doorway to big. Walk through it today. Tomorrow will be different. You might ask, what about doubts? You know, Jim, sometimes it's so loud inside you can't hear a thing. Doubts are like radio interference. They don't disappear, but you can drown them out with a stronger signal. That signal is your own evidence. When you create one small piece of evidence of your new identity each day, you build self-trust. And self-trust is the currency with which great decisions are bought. So here's your next micro-anchor. Create one piece of evidence today, just one. Evidence of discipline, evidence of honesty, evidence of courage. A folder full of such evidence grows quickly. And you know what? It weighs more than other people's opinions. Let's talk about your environment more deeply. The world isn't neutral. It either feeds you or drains you. I realized I needed people who didn't applaud my excuses, people who could ask uncomfortable questions. How does your goal look in your calendar? At some point, I even made a bold move. I reduced communication with those who feed on drama. And space appeared for those who feed on responsibility. It hurts at first, but it's amazingly freeing later, because where there's no chronic complaining, action grows faster. And now, a small plot twist, money. I've seen how uncomfortable people get when the topic of money comes up. They say money doesn't buy happiness, and use that as a cover to avoid setting financial goals. I say this: money is a test of your value to the marketplace. Nothing more, nothing less. It doesn't measure your soul, but it does honestly show how much your competence is needed by others. And if the numbers don't please you, don't smash the thermometer, change the temperature, raise your mastery, deepen your service, solve others' problems more precisely. The market doesn't reward desire, it rewards usefulness. Here's another story. I was once entrusted with a speech that could open doors to an entirely new level. I prepared fiercely, but a day before the speech, I felt like I was losing my center. Anxiety was eating my focus. I stopped and asked myself 3 questions. What's the one idea I want people to feel? What's one story that brings that idea to life? And what's one action that will help them take it home? That's it. Not 10, not 20, 1. The next morning, I went on stage calmer than ever. Why? Because goals become stronger when they become simpler. Simplicity isn't poverty, it's precision. Let's do another attention reset. If your big goal feels blurry right now, narrow the beam. Turn it into one clear skill you lack, then into one daily step, then into one measurable marker. And remember, we're getting close to the practical part where I'll give you a tool that will gather all these small steps into a clear daily system. Hang on a little longer. And finally, about dignity. Nobody talks about this enough, but goals worth pursuing always pass through the narrow doorway of dignity. Keeping your word when no one's watching, not taking what's not yours, never placing success above humanity. I learned one rule. If the path to a goal makes me smaller, that goal isn't mine. Because in the end, we don't bring our trophies into the world. We bring our character. And character is the most valuable result of any goal. In the next section, we'll go even deeper. I'll show you how to turn an ordinary day into a gym for your biggest dreams, how to keep score so that small wins add up to breakthroughs, and why one evening habit can change your entire trajectory in just a week. Don't switch off. The best is yet to come. There's another perspective we often forget. Goals are a way to calibrate your internal compass, not just count external trophies. Once I understood this, it became easier to let go of what wasn't essential, because not every win makes you bigger. Sometimes you win and suddenly feel smaller. Why? Because you paid for the result with your dignity, sleep, honesty. I follow a different path. If the road to the goal makes me better, I go. If it makes me smaller, I change the route but not the direction. That's the art of goal setting, building a trajectory where both the result and your character grow together. This is where leadership grows. People think leadership comes after the results. In truth, it comes to them. You become a leader when you learn to be a source of clarity for yourself and for others. When you don't just ask, what will I get, but also, what value will I become for those around me? I learned to translate my goals into the language of usefulness, not just earn more, but solve bigger problems for more people with higher quality. That's why I often say, success isn't something you chase. Success is something you attract by becoming a person of value. And here, a simple question serves as an anchor to start the day. How will I make someone's life clearer, easier, better today? The answer becomes your focus. Now about daily alchemy. There are 3 tools that enhance any goal: morning, work blocks, and evening. In the morning, I don't seek a mood. I create a state. 15 minutes of silence, a few lines in my journal, 1 sentence of intention. Who must I be today so my goals can feel my presence? In work blocks, I follow the short battle principle. 45 minutes of full focus, 15 minutes of recovery. That's how the attention muscle grows without burnout. And in the evening, the most powerful lever, a short honesty report. What did I do today that made me greater? What made me smaller? What's one action tomorrow that will confirm my new identity? Simple things, but simple things done daily are the strongest. Let's dive deeper into the journal. I once thought memory would be enough. It wasn't. Memory stores emotion. A journal stores evidence. And evidence fuels self-trust. When you flip through the pages and see how yesterday's I can't became today's I did, you gain inner credit that builds courage. That's why I say, write briefly but honestly. Don't embellish. A journal isn't a stage, it's a workshop. And one more rule, don't just write facts. Write the phrases you want to embed in yourself. Words are behavioral code. Again and again I write one line that centers me. Work more on yourself than on your job. Hundreds of times. And every time the simple truth reminds me where the real front line is. There's a temptation to live each day on autopilot. But autopilot takes you where yesterday's version of you aimed. And our goal is to update the system every day. That's why building small rituals of respect for time is crucial. I often say time is more valuable than money. Money can be recovered. Time can't. So I no longer spend time. I invest it. And I invest in things that give returns. Skills, relationships, health, clarity. If my day is filled with clutter, I stop and ask, what big thing is all this small stuff trying to cover up? Usually it's one difficult, important task I've been avoiding. I do it first. After that, the small things feel easy, not the other way around. Now about the fear of failure. Do you know what kills more goals than failure itself? Perfectionism. It's a subtle form of fear. We act like we're striving for the best, but really we're scared to start imperfectly. I found the cure, the right to version 0.1. Give yourself permission for a rough draft. It's never perfect, but without it, version 1.0 will never exist. When I wrote my first speeches, many lines felt painfully simple, yet they touched hearts because they were honest, and each draft opened the door to the next. Remember, movement creates clarity. Standing still creates fog. Another important shift, the radius of responsibility. Goals mature alongside our willingness to be responsible not just for ourselves, but for our impact. The bigger your goal, the more lives it touches. I often test my intentions with one question. Will the world be even slightly better if I achieve this? If the answer is yes, a different kind of energy arrives. You're not working just for gain, yet you're working for meaning, and meaning outlasts profit. Finally, a quote that always guides me through doubt. The true value of goals isn't in reaching them. The greatest value is in who you become along the way. When you truly accept that, the anxiety fades. Because each day begins to pay dividends in the form of character. Even if the result is still on the way, the growth is already here. Let's do a quick reset before we jump into practice. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself 1 year from now. Not where you live or what you drive, but who you are, how you stand, how you speak, how you keep your word, how you work, how you rest, how you love. Feel that version of you. Now open your eyes and ask, what's one daily step that connects me to that version? Not 10, 1. Write it down. Start with it tomorrow morning. In the next section, we're moving into interaction. I'll ask you 5 self-assessment questions on a scale from 1 to 10 so you can see exactly where your compass might need a tune-up. We'll do this in rhythm, no pauses, with short metaphors to help you think on the go. And then I'll give you a simple but incredibly effective evening summary practice that can shift your sense of control over your path in just 7 days. Ready? Then let's move forward. Now we're moving. No pauses, no delays. Imagine I'm standing next to you, gently quickening your pace. In a second, I'll give you 5 self-assessment questions. Answer on the go using a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 means almost absent or very weak, and 10 means steady, strong, at the level of my best self. Don't stop the video. Just say the number out loud or in your mind. Trust your intuition. You'll come back to them later to write down and expand your reflections in the comments. Let's go. First, how honestly do you keep the promises you make to yourself every day? Think of it as an inner contract. If the paper tears at the first pull, the bridge won't hold the weight of your dreams. Second, How consistently do you take a small daily step toward one key skill? Think of drops carving stone, not by force, but by constancy. Third, how much does your environment empower you instead of draining you? Picture a thermostat. Does it raise the temperature of your standards or cool them to zero? Fourth, how clearly do you see who you need to become for your big goal to feel normal? Not what to get, but who to be. They're different maps of the same territory. Fifth, how much do you invest your time in skills, health, relationships, and clarity instead of dissolving into distractions? Time is a currency with no change. What you buy daily is what you'll wear tomorrow. Hold your breath for a moment and look at your 5 numbers like a dashboard. Where's the red light flashing? That's your next growth point. Write one word in the comments that describes the area you'll raise by 1 point in 7 days, and come back in a week with a short report. Subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next part. I'll guide you with rhythm and clarity because it's easier to move in good company. Hit like. It's your small gesture of I'm in the game. And it strangely strengthens your discipline when a new day begins. Now let's do a micro practice called One Proof. Over the next 24 hours, create one measurable proof of your new identity. If you said discipline 6, wake up 10 minutes earlier. If environment 4, schedule one conversation with someone who's growing. If clarity 5, write 3 lines in your evening journal. Small step, big momentum. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Create it through action. After you finish, return to these 5 questions calmly with a pen and paper. Expand each answer into one concrete next action and share one insight below. We're moving forward. Next comes a simple evening practice that will tie all this into a system and help you see your progress every single day. And now, as we've walked this path together, from dream to discipline, from goal to character, I want you to pause for a moment and realize everything you're searching for has already begun to take root inside you. You may not yet see the fruit, but the roots have already grown deep. Because every action, every honest thought, every today I'll take even a small step is a seed from which a new life will grow. And remember, the true value of goal setting isn't in achieving the result. That's just a side effect. The real value lies in the person who awakens within you while you work toward it. I know sometimes it feels like progress is slow, the road is long, the world doesn't notice your effort. But my friend, don't mistake silence for the absence of growth. The earth is silent too when the seed begins to sprout. Just keep going. Keep sharpening your character, straightening your thoughts, keeping your word even when no one is watching. Because it's in those moments that your new strength is born. Not loud, not flashy, but deep, like a calm ocean. I often say, success doesn't love haste. It loves maturity. When you become ready, it arrives on its own. Not because you chased it, but because you became the kind of person it feels comfortable staying with. And that person, precise, stronger, more mindful, is already closer than you were yesterday. So let's end simply. Close your eyes for a second and tell yourself, I'm not waiting for the world to change. I'm changing myself. And in that moment, you're doing the most important thing, taking responsibility for your own transformation. That's what separates the watchers from the creators. Now go. Return to your journal, to your 5 questions, to your goal, and don't forget, every day you grow, even by a millimeter, your dream takes a step towards you. Because in the end, as I love to say, success isn't something you chase, it's something you attract by becoming the person who deserves it. That's the magic of goal setting, and that's the true value of your journey.